What's up, all? Hey, this is my first attempt at coming to you guys and giving you some FaceTime with me and putting my opinions out there. So I appreciate you tuning in and listening here on the Sidewinder Network. Got some interesting comments coming in from Mr. Gordon Ryan himself, the King, on his thoughts on the IBJJF. Now, exactly where these came from or when they were spoken, not 100% sure. I'm not going to quote him directly, but it did bring to mind a couple of things that I wanted to discuss, my personal issues with IBJJF as a registered black belt. So stay tuned and we'll talk about them. Okay, here we are on the IBJJF.com website. It's a beautiful website. First thing I want to say here is I am not a disgruntled IBJJF basher. In fact, I am a person who is trying very, very hard to get in compliance with IBJJF. I 100% believe, and always probably will, that the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation is the pinnacle as far as competition goes. Now, guys like Gordon Ryan will disagree with me. I'm not talking about no-gi. I think ADCC is without a doubt probably the top of the top. All the best guys go from IBJJF to ADCC, and I am not one that's ever competed there, nor am I one that wants to compete there. I love the art. I am not an accomplished 9-time, 10-time world champion. I am just another black belt. That's it. That's it. But I do and can have an opinion when it comes to the future of IBJJF and how things sit and how things will go moving forward. Just the other night, I sent a fairly lengthy text to Carlos Gracie Jr. I don't at all expect it to be read or even replied to, for that matter. But one thing I don't agree with is sort of the way the IBJJF has gone about closing their ranks when it comes to recognizing degrees of black belts. Now, we're going to talk about my personal situation, and I'm going to try to do as best I can to not drop a bunch of names, but I will not hide from my lineage. I'm very proud of it. My coach is a recognized IBJJF black belt. He's listed on their website as a 4th degree. He should be up for his 5th degree. He actually just got his 5th degree, and I'll be staying on his ass to try to get him to get that done. But I do possess an IBJJF black belt card. I have went through the 2-year provisional period, and I believe all that I have to do now is pay another little sum of money to get listed on their website. I have competed in IBJJF competitions as a black belt, and I do possess an opinion here. So we're going to go through this website, and we're going to look at this, and we're going to talk about their requisites when it comes to getting a black belt provisional card, and then how they go about recognizing degrees. So stay tuned. All right, here we are. We are on the IBJJF downloadable graduation system pamphlet or booklet. There's also a poster here, so we're going to scroll down here, and I'm going to put a disclaimer here. I have an academy, North Central Texas, and I try as hard as I can to adhere to this very, very closely. I do very strictly when it comes to the adults. The kids are a little bit different. I use the same belting system and the same general guidelines for how long they should take before they belt. But there's been a few changes at the above yellow just because of the competition scene, and that's neither here nor there. But talking about adult graduation, that's where we're at. If you guys have some questions or anybody has questions on my opinions on the graduation system for children, whatever, feel free to leave that in the comments, and we'll go from there. I think if you've been around jiu-jitsu very long, you understand how IBJJF ranks black belts, and I'm not going to go through all that because it's all right here in black and white. And they go into a point here where they talk about how long it can be before you get your 1st degree, 2nd, and 3rd degree. And I'll tell you up front, I am officially a 3rd degree. I've been a 3rd degree for 6 years now, so I guess due for 4th, and whenever that happens is whenever it happens. It's completely up to my coach. But just to give you an idea of where I stand on time. So I went back, it's been 3 years ago now. No, 4 years ago now. And I did the whole process, the whole request to be an IBJJF black belt to get my certification under them. And long story short, what happened here was I followed all their requirements, which it is a daunting task. And I can tell you right now, I've heard from many coaches as well as my own. It's just it is it's just such a circus going through all the stuff they do. They're very picky, and you have to have everything just right. So I went through this entire process and ultimately got my black belt card and then sat my 2-year provisional period, which their whole goal, I believe, behind that is to make you take to get a provisional period. And in that period of time, you can still compete, but to be listed and to be, I guess I'd say, made under their circumstances. I'm Italian, so I have to use that terminology, made under their circumstances or their rule set, that you have to sit the 2-year provisional. No problem. That's their rules. We'll apply by them. So we'll talk about this right here. So I got my provisional, and then where the problem started and where my world kind of fell apart on this was when it came to degree recognition, and we'll talk about that here. So Article 5, IBJJF requirements to apply for the black belt certificate and degrees. 5.1 must be affiliated. The athlete cannot have a provisional graduation, which means you cannot be a provisional at the time. So must provide first aid CPR, and that's where I'm at right here. I have to go through all this to get my name written on their website. That's why if you look me up right now, you will not find me, although I will show you. I've got an IBJJF card. I'll put that in here. We'll take a screenshot of it, just there's no questions. And then you have to attend the referee training part. So I'm in this part, this part right here. Still, as far as getting my name listed on there, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. I do have an intent of going through it, but being a full-time police officer and doing what I do, man, I can't find the time right now. So getting through that is kind of a pain in the ass. Observation: the black belt certification process requires a thorough analysis, and man, when they say that, they mean thorough, of documents by IBJJF and differs per athlete. Therefore, the time required approval may vary. In my case, it's been a long damn time. IBJJF may require additional courses, and for some countries, blah, blah, blah. Not even going to go over that. Article 6, professor and additional professor. The membership requests of an athlete graded in belts of white, gray, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, and brown must be signed by an approved IBJJF affiliated black belt professor except a provisional brown. I did not touch that. Here's where I came in. 6.2. The graduation of an athlete to black belt can only be signed by a black belt professor who has at least 2 degrees certified by IBJJF, except a provisional black belt. Then we go down to 7.1. We'll talk about that. So where did I go on this? I went through this process and got everything taken care of. And again, you'll go through the process. You'll see it. I'm not going to detail it entirely, but I went through this entire thing legit. My coach is listed on there as a 4th. Got it all signed. Got everything done. And then once I got it done, I set on my 2-year provisional. And then as soon as that was done, I started to inquire about getting my degrees recognized. Ultimately, what I was told was that because I did not register initially, when I first got my black belt back in 2000, it was late 8 or 09, May 1st of 09, or May 12th of 09. Sorry. It's like being in a marriage. You got to remember those dates. May 12th, 09. Because I did not register there to get my black belt that day, that essentially I had lost all credit for that amount of time, and that the only way I would start getting my graduations with them, meaning my degrees, is from the time that I had went on provisional with them. They would issue me my black belt provisional certificate, then I sit my 2 years, and then after 1 year of being a provisional, being a total of 3, then I could get my first degree. So for me, it was a loss of 14 years of contributions to the art. And ultimately, I'm told there is nothing that can be done about it. That is a bit disheartening. I'll be honest. So, of course, I took that in stride and I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, there's a way that I can provide the documentation. I can do something. I mean, my thought process is, hell, my coach is listed on their site as a 4th degree black belt. Our lineage traces right back to what I believe is a board member, Jacare Cavalcani, Master Jacare. All due respect, sir, to you. I figured that there's something here, that maybe it's just a loose set of guidelines or something. Maybe there's something else. So ultimately, I sent in an email to IBJJF support, I believe, and then they have their little division that investigates everything. And they asked me to provide documentation of my black belt promotion. Now, in 2008, I had competed as a brown belt, so they have a record of that at the Pans, Carson, California, 2008. They did have record of that, and they did confirm that they had record of that. And then I was promoted a short time later in 2009. Now, I did not register with IBJJF at that time. And to be perfectly honest with you, back in 2009, it wasn't something that I knew to do. We here in Texas did not really come across that. That was not a big deal for us. Most of the Brazilians, I'm sure it was a very big deal for them, but that just was not passed down as something that we needed to be super concerned about. We did not have the tournament opportunities here. There was one tournament a year, best I remember, maybe two, in the United States, and I had attended those. They moved around, but they were for the most part, they were in California, and that's where I went to compete there. So we didn't really know to do that. It wasn't until several years later that the IBJJF really gained ground and popularity here in the United States. So what happened there was that left a lot of black belts in the Texas area, or in the state of Texas and the DFW area, well behind. It pretty much closed the door on us. There's a couple generations there that it closed the door on. Now, unless you were one of the guys that were in, I know the Machados, I don't think they have ever really made any attempt to be a part of IBJJF, to the best of my knowledge. And if I'm wrong, one of you Machado black belts, speak up. No disrespect to you guys. There's a long history here, and we're not going to go into the history of BJJ and DFW. I consider myself a Gen 1 black belt from here, and my coach and the coaches before him would be kind of the OGs, the originals that came here. It all started with Carlos Machado. So not going over a history here, was just a number of guys that started in this area that never really passed on the importance of registering with IBJJF. I think that some of them may have kind of felt it needed to be done, but it wasn't something that was passed on. And in addition, IBJJF knew there was a Texas syndicate coming up that they could have reached out with and tried to make sure that we did this, but it just never really was communicated to us. No fault on anybody. Now, I'm not sitting here throwing shade on anybody. I'm just saying it just wasn't something that we knew to do. The biggest tournament, at the time was Naga. And at that time, we just knew to register there because that was a once-a-year deal. They came in and then they would leave, and that was it. And then I think we had a few small venues that would hold some small tournaments, but nothing huge. So ultimately, we lost that time. And then with IBJJF, they basically told me that there is nothing that can be done about it. So where did that leave me? That left me, they asked me to show some proof. I sent a video. It was dated on the video. That video is still on YouTube to this day. It showed my coach, who's on their website as a recognized black belt, handing me the black belt, tying it on my waist. It showed the date, was time-stamped on the bottom right corner of that. Additionally, my coach made efforts to reach out and tell them the situation there, and ultimately we were stonewalled at every attempt. They would not budge on recognizing, my promotions. Now, I'm sure there are many others that are in the same situation. We provided, I requested that they look up the 2008s, and they did, and saw that I was on there as a competitor. And it would seem reasonable to me to believe that you could put two and two together and realize that if I was a brown belt in 08, and there's video of me in 09 getting promoted by a guy that's on your website, that should be legit. Unfortunately for them, I think it's just a matter that the rule has been written, and that's just one that they don't break, and that's the way it is. So we'll look at this right here. Just talks about provisional graduations, and it says athletes receive a provisional graduation up here on 7/1 when they register their brown or black belt under IBJJF without having previous registration at the prior belt rank. Meaning, but see, and that's a part that I don't understand, was because I had an IBJJF card as a brown belt, and I competed as a brown belt, but yet it's not being recognized as a black belt. So I don't get it, and they just will not budge on it. Black belts who have never had IBJJF registration, then it goes all the way down. Brown belts who have never had purple, blah, blah, blah. So then we go down to 7.2. Athletes with provisional graduation are classified as provisional for 2 years, starting from the date of membership payment confirmation during the period. IBJJF reserves the right to revoke an athlete's graduation at his discretion, obviously. The request of a provisional brown, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, down here on 7.1, the most important part, the membership request of provisional black athlete must be signed or approved by a black belt with a minimum graduation of 3 degrees. We got there, no problems. And then athletes with provisional graduation must remain registered for 2 years under the professor who approved their membership. And I did that, went through that. Athletes with provisional graduation cannot be the head professor of an academy, but they can be an additional professor. So I obviously got an academy of my own. Black belts athletes with provisional graduation cannot request a black belt certificate with IBJJF until the provisional period is completed. So been there, done that. And then here, 7A, year that the athlete is actively registered as provisional black belt will be counted toward the time for their degrees. And that's where we stand. So essentially, IBJJF is saying, well, son, you lost credit for the 14 years there, and we're just not going to make that up. So that's kind of where it stands.